I play a lot of bad games. It comes with the territory, and this year had some of the worst. Now I do have one rule for this list, and that's no easy targets. Easy targets are games like shovelware, kids games, movie tie-in titles. I'm not even going to bother counting any of those. But these are the top 10 worst games of 2012. Number 10. Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil 6 has a lot of good things going for it. There's loads of replayability, it has co-op, it has versus, it looks great, and it has excellent presentation. But none of that matters when it's so poorly designed. The improved mobility and dodge maneuvers are great and all, but with the camera pulled in so close to your character, it becomes cumbersome. Playing on single player gives you a completely invulnerable AI partner, and playing on co-op gives very few unique or exciting cooperative features aside from a few QuickTime events. It has 4 story modes, which is great in theory, but it's done so badly that the story is completely lost or becomes moot. Jake's campaign is the worst, with a chase on almost every type of vehicle you can imagine. Chris's campaign is bad because of too much concentration on shootouts. I know everybody says Leon's campaign is the best of them all, but it's still awful. Without giving away too much, in Leon's campaign you fight a person who transforms into a Tyrannosaurus Rex who transforms into a giant mosquito. That's just dumb.
Don't worry, he doesn't want you!
Number 9. Final Fantasy 13-2. I will concede that this game does a lot of things better than Final Fantasy 13, but that doesn't make it good. The battle system got a few incremental improvements, but it wasn't enough to shake free of using auto battle for most fights. The larger environments were nice at least, but it was all disconnected arenas you warp to instead of a cohesive world. A lot of people loved the monster collection aspect, but I personally didn't really get into it. I only had 2 or 3 that I needed, and I was able to get through every fight just fine with them. But I can see why people would like putting hats on critters. Really though, 13-2's biggest offense is the story. Time travel is already a hard enough subject to tackle, but Square Enix does it in such a pointless and convoluted manner that you really wonder what you're even doing anymore just a few hours in. Plus the ending is a complete cop-out, and that's the worst part. Final Fantasy 13-2 isn't even a complete game.
The story so far, Kubo.
Number 8. The Last Story. Talk about a disappointment. Again, I realize that the rest of the world had this already, but the States didn't get it here until this year. I'm glad we got it, but The Last Story is not a good game. The camera and the controls constantly wrestle with each other, leveling up happens way too frequently and lacks any kind of lasting impact, the characters are one-dimensional, and the storyline has a decent setup, but it isn't anything special, complete with an obvious plot twist seen coming since the first few hours. But the biggest thing holding The Last Story back is a lack of scope. The world seems interesting and worth exploring, but it all takes place in a single town that you spend most of your time in, and traveling to new areas are either brief or rather confined. It feels like much more could have been done, but I feel like it's the hardware that handicapped this game. The Last Story could have been good if it wasn't so restricted with the Wii.
Alright! I'm sorry, okay?
Number 7. Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. This game doesn't suck because it's nothing like a Resident Evil game. This game sucks because it isn't a good game. It's underdesigned and underproduced. Every stage is mowing through zombies effortlessly until you come across something bigger, like lickers or hunters. Then it's filling them with bullets and explosions while they seem unaffected. It had decent ideas like the 4-player co-op and the online multiplayer, but every single thing is so poorly executed you'd wonder why something wasn't left on the cutting room floor. It had so many problems on day one that the game was unplayable in a lot of instances, and the developer Slant6 couldn't fix them with a patch. But hey, at least Capcom got their day one DLC for it. Number 6. Star Wars Kinect. As soon as the concept of motion control came around, every single person thought the same thing. I want to swing around a lightsaber! The Wii never fulfilled on that dream, so when a prototype Star Wars game was shown for the Kinect, our hopes were rekindled. And instead we got this, and this, and this. Sadly, the best thing to come out of Star Wars Kinect was the dancing minigame. And that's mostly because it straight up copied Dance Central. Way too many developers worked on this game without a clear vision of what it should be. I'm sure kids love it, but they don't know any better, because kids are dumb. Number 5. Dragon Ball Z for Kinect. So yes, this is a carbon copy of Ultimate Tenkaichi, only using motion controls instead of button presses. But at least Tenkaichi had substance to it. Dragon Ball Z for Kinect only has the story mode that lasts a whopping 3 hours and nothing else to come back to. This is one of the most obvious examples of a quick cash in on a franchise, as they clearly had to do very little work to get this game made. It would be higher on the worst games list, but there's something charming to copying those iconic special techniques. Number 4. Steel Battalion Heavy Armor. This one is a massive letdown on multiple fronts. Yes, the game sucks, the motion controls don't work, and all of the cool ideas it had are ruined because of these facts. But Steel Battalion was to be the first example of how motion controls can coincide with a standard controller. But the Kinect makes the whole game unplayable to the point where it's comically frustrating. The game actively fights against you with conflicting commands, making you hold the controller that blocks your hands while doing motion controls, and then it suddenly tells you to stand up and do more signals without telling you what the signal is. And the game is crushingly difficult for everything it wants you to do. Congratulations, Capcom. You killed motion controls' hope for the future. Number 3. Konami. As in the whole company. I seriously can't think of a single thing Konami did right this year. All they did was screw up. Never Did was one of the worst games of this year alone, and when the X-Blade sequel came out, they didn't even tell anyone about its existence. The Zone of the Enders HD collection slowed down the gameplay from the originals and has frame rate problems. And look at what their year of Silent Hill became. Silent Hill Downpour isn't terrible, but it isn't very good. Silent Hill Book of Memories was delayed no less than 3 times mere days before its numerous release dates, and it would be a decent game if it wasn't called Silent Hill. But the Silent Hill HD collection is absolutely worthless, with now muddy visuals, the fog gone, new voiceovers, broken cutscenes with lips desynced, and it's all based on unfinished code. Konami did patch it on the PlayStation 3, but they simply said they can't and won't fix the 360 version. Be glad you have whatever blackmail it is you have on Hideo Kojima, Konami, because without him and Metal Gear, I don't think you would be around anymore. Number 2. Amy. Every gamer hates escort quests. This is a fact. Amy's entire game is an escort quest, not even one that works. Bugs and glitches prevent progress all the time, you can lose for doing a few menial tasks out of order, and the checkpoint system simply doesn't work, making you lose an hour of gameplay. And you have to escort the dumbest AI partner in the world. The little girl Amy gets stuck indoors, walks aggravatingly slow, and the stealth mechanics simply don't work, which causes combat, and combat is beyond clunky. Simply put, the whole game of Amy is terrible and should not be played by anyone. Not even for a joke or a few chuckles. Stay away from Amy.
Oh, Amy, it's nothing.
The number 1 worst game of 2012. The War Z. Never mind the fact that the War Z is an obvious quick cash-in on the popularity of DayZ. Never mind the fact that War Z blatantly lied about its gameplay features and got itself removed off Steam for false advertising. Never mind the fact that the War Z developer is doing extremely shady practices, bans innocent players, and blacklists anybody who asks for a refund. The War Z is not a good game. Aside from all the missing features, the game is actually quite boring and completely unfair. The most offensive bit about it is the free-to-play model, which is the most blatant use of pay-to-win ever. Survival integral items such as food, water, healing items, or bullets can be instantly purchased with real-world cash. And this is exactly what the developer Hammerpoint said they wouldn't do. And if you die in the game, you have to wait at least 4 hours to respawn. The only way around that is to pay real money to instantly respawn, or to delete your character and start over, which makes all those items you paid real money for gone. It's bad enough that the War Z is the pinnacle of pay-to-win gaming, but it's even worse that it manipulates you into spending more. The War Z is a scam. 2012 certainly had a lot more bad games than good, but there were good games, and no matter how bleak things seem to be, I always look forward to the future. So here's to gaming in 2013, where I will do all of this again.